Howdy, everyone. So we're doing something different today by reacting to the podcast as the Pokeball turns. So make sure you guys support the host as the Pokeball turns, as well as Unova Champion Black. I'm sorry for butchering it. Unova Region Champion Black. So make sure you guys support the official podcast. And yeah, I'll be reacting to this podcast along with all of you guys. So let's get to it, shall we? My audio, my phone.
My name is Sharpie, the owner of Unova Region Champion Black, and this is
where every voice, every journey, and every memory brings us closer to the world of Pokemon. I'm David Hernandez, and I'm joined by Sharpie, the owner of the Unova Region Champion Black Facebook page. Sharpie, welcome to As the Pokeball Turns.
hey, thanks for having me.
Yo,
Absolutely,
Unova!
Sharpie.
Let's go!
It's interesting to have, I guess, a Facebook owner page, because a lot of people feel like Facebook's kind of dead, or it's kind of...
Oh, trust me, it is kind of dead.
And before I want to give some insight to what is the Unova Region Champion Black Facebook page. Like, what is it about?
Honestly, so I want to preface by saying this. Originally, this was not my Facebook page. My original Facebook page was The Real Rival Silver, which that page is not up anymore. The backup page is still active. It's not active, but it's up. But the original page got taken down by Facebook in 2014. But my friend happened to have Unova Region Champion Black. He started this page about 2 months after I started my original one. And we became friends because at that time the Facebook community was really popping. Everybody had Facebook pages, and it was just like you had the super popular ones and you had the kind of popular ones, and then you had the ones that were trying to grow. A lot of times you saw page admins on multiple different pages, and that was just kind of like the thing. So he was an admin on my original page, I was an admin on his page, and Unova Region Champion Black at most I think had 8 page admins on it. And just over time, throughout life or whatever, the page pretty much got down to one admin. And it's been just me for probably since 2017. And I took time off of the page just because I had a lot of life going on between like 2017 and 2019. I hate to say that, like I let the page die. I didn't delete it, but I let it die. I couldn't focus on it at all. And then 2019, 2020, I kind of started picking back up. I want to see if I can rebuild this page and, just make it feel more like me, since I'm the only one here anyways. And I needed a hobby to kind of get myself away from just real life. And then I started posting. I'd only post like a couple of times a day. And then I would start posting more often. And then COVID happened and I didn't really have anything else to do but post. So I started posting more often. So it went from maybe 2 or 3 times a day to like 5 or 6 times a day. And as of the last 3 years, I've been posting probably 9 to 10 times a day, every day for the last 3 years straight.
Yeah, so with this, I kind of do relate with him from back then, during the golden age, some of us would like to call it, in terms of Facebook. Because back then, for Facebook, it was the Wild Wild West. Everything was just free. And it was easier to grow everyone's pages due to these share groups, as well as other page admins will just share you just like that without anyone even having to worrying about X, Y, and Z or any type of issues during the Facebook era from back then. From back then, it was just more to do with freedom, and everyone was a lot more better and sociable back then compared to nowadays, I would say, in terms of just overall growth. Because if you create a new page now, it's a lot harder to grow that new page itself. As well as from back then, you just tend to get so many admins on board, and you don't really think about their qualifications, if they could stick with posting like once or twice per day, or even more than that, compared to like nowadays where some of us are a lot more stricter to when it comes to how many times someone could post a day or week or month, etc. like that. So I kind of do relate with Unova when it comes to having a big Facebook page in general. When it comes to so many page admins controlling on that one page. So it's quite interesting that I wasn't the only one when it comes to this Ash Ketchum page, as well as any of my other pages in general. So yeah, it's kind of nice hearing about that, about the golden age of Facebook. So let's continue.
Oh my god, that's some dedication.
It is, and I don't really know how I've kept it up.
I was gonna ask, like, how?
Before they let us actually schedule posts, I was actually going in manually every 2 hours. It didn't matter if I was at work. It didn't matter if I was at church or out, on the street, or if I was just playing games with family. I would stop what I'm doing, or I could be out at dinner, and if I know that time frame has passed, I'm going and I'm posting something else. And
I can
at
relate
the point
with
now
that.
where even though I can schedule posts, I don't do it because it's now wired in my brain that every 2 hours I have to check my phone.
So
Yep.
you're like almost attached.
I
to
can
it,
agree
making
with
sure
that.
It's kind of there anyway, right?
Yeah, I try to tell myself, okay, I need to break myself out of this habit. I need to get back to scheduling posts, and I'll schedule posts for like a week, and then and I'll still go back every 2 hours. Like, did I schedule that the right way? Because sometimes I'll schedule it for the wrong time or for the wrong day, and I have to go back and fix it, or go and post something else and leave that for another day. And then I get frustrated because now I've messed up my routine. But it's been a wild 3 years. Last year for me was an insane year for me for growth, because I started at around 33,000 followers, and I ended the year, I believe, at 133,000 followers. And that's just in that 1 year.
Yeah, you
Whereas
grew
I
quite
spent
a
the
lot, by
last 10 years
100K.
before that trying to build this page up. In 1 year, I tripled, my follower base. And I still don't know what happened because I haven't replicated it. I'm not on that same trend this year, which is fine. But I don't know what happened last year for me to get to the point that I'm at now.
Yeah, it
You
was
mentioned
pretty
how you took
nutty.
a break initially. You took about 2 years. I'm sorry. You took about 2 years to kind of take a break after 2017. What inspired you to want to come back to this page? Because it could have been easy just to forget about it and just be like, it's over. That's the end of the chapter. But you decided to come back specifically for this page and continue it on its legacy. What made you want to come back?
Honestly, I was dealing with a lot of trauma, a lot of bad things that were just like kind of going on in my life at the time. And even though I spent, I guess, a somewhat decent amount of time on Facebook and even on other social media platforms, I always kept coming back to Facebook. And every now and then I would see, one of the pages that was like back when all the pages were booming, one of the pages that were still active, they would post something. And I'm like, I kind of miss, that old page community. I wish we could, build that back up. And then I would see a couple of pages that were newer, but they were active. And I was like, oh, so, there are still active Pokemon fan pages that are out there. I still have this one. And I kind of use it as a gauge to see if my community is active, even though I've been gone for so long, then I'll keep going. But if I can't get that activity back up, then I'll kind of just let it go. It was, at least we tried. I'll do something else, or I'll focus on myself and the other social media platforms that I'm on and work on the growth there. We had a couple of posts that did pretty well. And I was like, okay, this isn't, it's not too bad. I can probably build on this. I didn't know how, but I was just going to keep trying until I got somewhere. And then I got somewhere.
What felt different, I guess, about engaging the community at that point, compared to before?
Let me pause it right here, because I do kind of relate to where he's coming from, especially in terms of like a hefty hiatus when it comes to like from Facebook in general as the only social media platform. I don't know, you get somewhat attached to this platform, especially if you are a page admin and you've been here for like years, since the golden age of Facebook in general, when it comes to Facebook groups or Facebook pages. So I kind of do relate to where he's coming from, especially with the hiatus, as I just mentioned not too long ago. But yeah, I do relate to him, especially seeing how all these other pages are slowly getting active again. And with my experience, the pages that got me back onto Ash Ketchum again, when I resumed the page in general, was this guy. It was Unova Region Champion Black that somewhat got me onto posting again. Because I'm not gonna lie, I've been following that page for a hot minute on my multiple other Smurf accounts. Same with Sizzle, the Sizzle page, which I did follow alongside with Champion Black's page. With both of them, I'm truly blessed because they got me into Facebook again. They just lit that fire under my ass, and they'd be like, "Yeah, get up, soldier, we need you back." But yeah, I'm blessed with them continuing posting, because without them, then most likely I wouldn't even gotten back to Facebook, to be honest with you, in terms of just seeing Pokemon content in general in my timeline. But yeah, let's just continue.
2017 to even afterwards, was there a difference, or was it kind of more the same?
It's a huge difference. Some of the people that I recognize coming back, like, one thing I like about Facebook is it's easy to tell who's been around for a while and who's relatively new, because I still see names that I saw back in, 2013 that, I saw come back to the page when I came back in 2019. And I was like, wow, you've been following for a long time. And, you don't realize that those names are kind of like stuck in your head until you see them again. I'm like, okay, hey, I remember you, or I think I remember you. But the community back then, it was a lot more active. Like, we had a lot of pages that were doing collabs together and doing all kinds of community events.
I agree.
We would set up Facebook
really
groups
agree.
where we could, combine our fan bases, and we might have Pokemon tournaments or, really big giveaways, or, just in general having fun. And nowadays, even though it's starting to build back up again with like a new crop of talent, new crop of pages, it still doesn't feel as lively as it used to. I personally have been trying to get a lot of different Pokemon pages from different walks of life to mesh their communities together again. And, there's always going to be a couple of outliers, people that kind of just want to, do their own thing. And that's fine. Like, I support you growing your community, because at the end of the day, we're all here for Pokemon. But I don't want to say I feel, this is probably the only nostalgic thing about Pokemon for me that really kind of gets me, is I do miss the way the community used to be compared to how it is now. But at the same time, I enjoy the fact that the community is building itself anew.
Could you get some insight on that? Like, do you mean the different, same based on the Facebook side or overall?
I would say primarily on the Facebook side. The overall social media platform of Pokemon has just grown in general with Pokemon Go, and with the competitive scene growing to the point where it's, even if you don't necessarily play competitive, certain people, within the competitive realm of Pokemon, or if you're a shiny hunter, or if you're this, people know these names more. And I feel like we're almost in like a renaissance period for Pokemon as a whole. But to dwindle it down to Facebook, it's a little bit of the same, like kind of like a lesser renaissance type feel, and just like specifically for fan pages.
Honestly, I do kind of mess with this guy, what you saying, brother Unova, because I feel the same way as well. Because back then, mid 2010s, or even way before then, although I wasn't in the like Pokemon community like that before 2014, I was still somewhat in that community, as well as the Naruto, Dragon Ball, and Bleach community. So back then, everyone was a lot more sociable, and everyone really did like to react to each other's posts and it was somewhat of like a role-playing era with each other's pages, and each page they could just say something about the other page, and your followers will just go towards that page itself. But with Facebook nowadays is that it's somewhat hard to do that. So if you were to share a new page that doesn't belong to you, let's say for example I shared a, I don't know, Bidoof page, and I tell everyone, hi guys, new page has appeared, come and follow them. With people like your followers, they won't really go towards that page itself, even if it's a brand new page, because they're already following an existing page, and that existing page is your page itself, which doesn't really benefit the new page that's trying to grow, especially with the established small pages. I know a few of them that's been posting daily, but when you do share them, they just don't get a single follower, or even they get 1 follower or 2 followers if lucky, compared to back then. Back then, when you did share a page, that new page, which we called back then S4S, which is share for share, that new page tends to get a lot of followers, or a lot more followers compared to nowadays. Nowadays, Facebook, in terms of like your own individual communities, is just everyone wants to stay in one place itself. They don't want to spread towards other places in general, especially when it comes to different types of content in general. If it's either meme content or original content when it comes to Pokemon posts, either the what's it called, the reaction posts, or even the plushie posts, or even the live streaming posts in general. It's just a lot more harder to grow a Facebook page compared to back then, if you're a new page, that is, and it doesn't belong to you. So I kind of do agree with where Unova is coming from in terms of like the community in general. It's a lot more harder when it comes to merging people together. But I feel like it's slowly growing back up again compared to back in that era time. But back in that era time, it's gonna be a way long period before we even reach that time period of where if someone shares a new page, that page gets, let's say for example, 30 followers, 100 followers, or 1,000 followers, then that page will be thriving and they will continue to grow and they will continue to post. But making a new Facebook page nowadays is just depressing, really, in general. So I kind of do feel for the little guys that decides to come onto the scene, especially when it comes to big pages sharing those little pages and they don't even get single follower. So it is kind of sad in a way. And let's see the chat. Yo, good morning fam, howdy Leroy, welcome to the stream. Oh, like Mr. Sixagoon does. I mean, with Mr. Sixagoon and Lady Cleffa, they're like special exceptions to that rule, because they're growing pretty fast compared to all the other smaller pages compared to them. Because the other smaller pages compared to them that post every few days or they post daily, they don't grow as fast as the both of them. Especially with Lady Cleffa. She's growing and she's kind of a threat, I'm not going to lie. She is a threat and somewhat of a rival, if you want to think it like that, in terms of her overall growth in general, or growth potential. Because by the end of this year, I'm predicting that she'll probably reach 10k or 20k if she still does her thing. That's how much of a threat she is, especially in terms of overall growth potential. And Mr. Sixagoon, he's growing as well, slowly but surely, but he's gaining followers in general compared to all those other smaller pages than him. You could say it's because those pages ain't live streaming, or they're not posting interesting content, or like content that says, wow, I want to follow this page or check this page out. So Mrs. Hexagoon does kind of unlock the key. Same with Lady Cleffa in terms of their overall growth potential compared to all those other smaller pages. If it doesn't belong to you. If it's like my pages like the Dutality New Gen or Lico and Friends, then yeah, they can grow slowly but surely because I have the Ash Ketchum page or the Protector Cross page which I can share, as well as my like 8K Facebook group. So it's easier for me to share them across. But with Lico and Friends, I didn't really share them that much in terms of the Dutality Facebook group or even the Ash Ketchum page, because I wanted them to have their own community, their own like followers. And then I started sharing Lico and Friends a lot more after I hit like 1K or 1.5K. So some followers from this page and my other pages came onto my Lico page. But I'm trying to separate Lico from Ash Ketchum so Lico can have her own fan base itself. Oh, Saranish, welcome to the stream, my dude. Evening, bro. Evening, my dude. And Leroy with right. Yeah. So let's continue. We have 1 hour left. Jeebus.
And one of the things that I noticed when I first came back is that we had fan pages, but they didn't really interact with their fan base. And one of the things that helped my page take off and the original, well, I'll say the original community days, is that most of us as fan page admins, we were active in talking with our community. It wasn't just, okay, we're going to post something and then leave it alone. It was, if somebody commented on it, we responded to the comments, and we would have conversations and this thing and that thing. And
yeah, so with this, I do kind of understand. That's another aspect that can help you grow in general, because when you comment under someone's post or even react to someone's like comments under your main post, they'll be like, okay, this admin is pretty cool. They're listening, they're reacting, and they see me for like commenting on their posts compared to them just outright, ignoring me. So it's that psychology in a way in terms of how people's minds does work. So if I were to comment on another Facebook page and I feel ignored, that wouldn't really get me to follow that page in general, because they're not really interacting with me and I feel like they're somewhat disrespecting me as like a follower or potential follower. So I kind of do get where he's coming from in terms of that, especially from back then. Like, all of us could just go into the comments, react to everyone's comments, or even respond to everyone's comments in general. But for me, it's just somewhat hard to do that nowadays. Especially after the Ash Ketchum page has been restored back up again. Because I'm being extremely careful with my responses. Because I don't have any filter in general when it comes to my responses or gifs that I use. Especially with Facebook AI, has been a pain in my booty for God knows how many months, or nearly up to a year actually. I've been a lot more stricter to who I should respond to or what I should respond. As sometimes my responses can be dry. It's just me avoiding the Facebook AI detection. So I don't tend to respond to everyone's comments nowadays. Because of that, especially when the Ash Ketchum page just gotten back together, and I'm being extremely careful with my responses and what I post in general. Although I do miss reacting or even replying to people, especially in very long chains, I just can't do that nowadays because of mostly Facebook AI being a thorn in my side, to be honest with you. I love saying to be honest with you, don't I? But yeah, that's my biggest issues in terms of just Facebook in general. But I don't mind interacting with like people here and there, especially if it's like light conversation or just light responses and whatnot. I meant that Mrs. C been promoting new on the scene, Pokemon pages. Same with Cliffer. Yeah, I do see them promoting new pages in general. For me, I used to do that. I used to promote pages quite a lot, especially new pages. But right now, I'm a lot more stricter to when it comes to sharing pages, especially with mainly Facebook AI. Because remember, like last year, I used to share like these Pokemon pages, about 5 of their posts, and I used to just spam it on the timeline, and they used to gain attraction. But now I can't even do that because of, like, Facebook being a thorn in my side. But I do tend to share new pages here and there, especially ones that have been on the scene for a long time and they are trying. But for me, I'm just a lot more stricter because you need to put in the work, the energy, just to continue to post. Because there's so many like new Facebook pages that I've been promoting, and they post like once a week or once every few days or once a month, and the people that follow them tend to just disappear because they're not really posting anything in general. And that kind of does look bad on the person that shares them as well. Because why should I follow any pages that you recommend me to follow in the nearby future if those pages just gone dead? So it's kind of like a double-edged sword when you do share new pages. You need to make sure that, yeah, there's a motorbike outside. I can't help it. You have to make sure that the pages that you do share are there to stay. And they are being constant when it comes to sharing again and again and again and again. Or when it comes to them posting their own type of content. And then just some of these new pages, all they do is share all the bigger pages posts on their page. And that just won't really do. They have to try post their own stuff. It doesn't have to be their own original content. It can be like memes or like short videos or anything like that. As long as it's under their page when it comes to their photos or videos. Which is easier to share their quote-unquote content, although it's not their content. If you get where I'm coming from. There do exist tricks for fooling AI. I experimented. I mean, there are tricks to avoid AI, but I'm not going to risk it. Not with this page again. So I'm being extremely careful to, like, everything I do in general on this page. Because I do not want what happened to me last year happen again on this page. Because it's just been a right nightmare. In terms of all my accounts getting disabled or getting striked. And I have to make new accounts. It does get tiring and you do get, like, burnt out from it. But I stuck around because of everyone's support that followed me to my like new pages in general, like the World's Champion Ash Ketchum page and the original Brutality page. At some point I will buy the Meta badge and then just make sure that those 2 pages can be bought back again and any restrictions will be like removed. We can discuss for a new one. I mean, I'm not thinking of creating a new page right now, since I do have Brutality Next Gen, as well as Liko and Friends. So those are the only pages that I'm gonna stick with. With this Ash Ketchum page, I'm not going to make another Ash Ketchum page, since I do have the World's Champion Ash Ketchum page, which was suspended due to cyber attack, or something like that, which was kind of stupid. So I will restore that page back up again at some point, but it's not a priority currently. Especially with in terms of finances and all of that, spending £10 per month on a badge, and the customer service, they don't respond to you in like a few days or hours or even weeks. It takes them months to even say anything, or they don't say anything at all, and you're just sinking down money. Although $10 or £10 isn't a lot, it's just when it comes to it stacking up. It does stack up quite good for you. Especially when like surprise spills do come and show up. So that's the only downsides to it, unfortunately. So I did my master's in computer applications and product across page you manage. I mean, I did manage that page for like a year. And I did help him grow. He was on a massive decline from like 49k. Then I got him to like 59k. I wanted to get him to 60k and then I could retire for a bit on a holiday. Then Facebook came along, then start striking that page down. And I kind of left his pages on my other accounts and deleted my other accounts until that situation does get resolved. Because I will feel extremely guilty if I do post something again and his page will just go bye-bye because of me. Although the main admin said that he doesn't really care about it since it's only a page. But with me, it's all about that attachment. It's like your own child, you know? Although I don't have a child, but I class the Ash Ketchum page, this one like my firstborn child. Since it was one of my first original pages from back in 2014. And it helped me from my childhood as well as relationships and friendships. And it did assist me to grow as a person. So yeah, there's that as well. So let's continue. I've been waffling on, just like Unova. Yeah, that's 120. Yeah, it is steep. It does get steep.
Coming back, initially we didn't really have that. At least I didn't really see it. No matter what page I was on, I didn't really see people commenting like towards their fans, like having those conversations. And I was like, well, it just doesn't feel the same. But I was going to keep doing what I was used to. I was used to talking to the fans. So if I brought up a subject, whether it was something related to the games or to the anime, and I wanted to have a conversation, I would post something that's a conversation piece. On my Facebook page bio, it says, hey, I'm probably going to argue with you, but like, don't take it seriously. For me, it's all in good fun.
Right.
And
Cat.
I think that a lot of people
He loves
see
it.
me as like a controversial poster because I will post my opinion and I will argue with you on your opinion and my opinion. And I get a lot of mess for this, and it's fine because everybody, is entitled to their
He
opinion.
gets a lot of mess,
it's
but
like
he does
we
love it
have
deep down.
So many people that feel so strongly about things, and I'm passionate to see those conversations keep going and going. So there are parts of the conversation where even though I don't agree with your standpoint, I agree with parts of it, but I'm not going to focus on the parts that I agree with. I'm going to specifically focus on the parts that I disagree with for the sake of keeping the conversation going, because that increases that viewership and that brings more people to this conversation,
And
then
also
more people get to
engagement.
talking. And not only are they talking with me, but now they're talking with each other. And then you build these relationships, whether they're good or bad, but you build these relationships amongst each other and with them. And it's like, okay, great. This conversation, this post went well. And it all started because I said that I like Alola and everybody else hates Alola, or I agree with Dexit and everybody's like, Dexit was a bad idea. They lied, Game Freak lied, And I'm just like, I care because everybody playing Pokemon should be happy.
Exactly.
And no, you can't really please everybody, but there are things that you can avoid and things you can't avoid. And I feel like everybody deserves the right to not just express their opinion, but everybody deserves the right to have fun if they want to. The only time you'll see me really get serious with a Pokemon conversation is if I see other people trying to dwindle people's ability to have fun.
Yeah,
I think
he
it's
is right.
a shift at some point. I don't know when, but at some point, I think people who were, I'll say creators, whether it be the Facebook or any kind of media, became more onlookers instead of being involved within the community. I remember growing up, a lot of the people I watched, they were also involved, like you were talking about. They would lead discussions, they would lead talks.
Yo,
Some
Potato
of them
Cross
get
has
some
been
very
summoned.
controversial subjects, let's be honest.
Mm-hmm.
And yes, they would get their flag for it, but they would also open up a conversation to open other people's minds out, or open people's minds, but also be able to lead dialogue. And you don't see that not much anymore. You get people who tend to avoid the controversial side, who maybe avoid like the negativity, which I get it. You know, you want to protect your mental health, but at the same time, there's that conversation is still going to happen, whether you engage with it or not.
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't engage with it, well, where does that lead you to, right? It leads you to maybe people getting ideas that maybe aren't the best, not just for Pokemon, but maybe overall. At least what do you think? That's my thought.
I agree. I feel like people are, I don't want to say afraid, but people are more concerned with protecting their image or their brand than to really talk about the hard-hitting subjects or to have those conversations about, you know, the hard-hitting subjects
That
or
is true.
the way things are, not
That is
just
true.
with the people that make Pokemon, but the people that play Pokemon, the people that talk about it. Like, social media doesn't seem to be, you know, where it used to be, where we could, you know, unapologetically have these conversations without worrying about offending a bunch of people or getting canceled or, you know, whatever it is. And for me, that's just not fun. It doesn't, for me.
Honestly, with that point of view, he does have a point. Because people nowadays are way too scared to form their own opinions or state their own opinions in public. Because they're afraid of either cancellations or they're afraid of people hating them or unfollowing them or X, Y, and Z. Compared to back then. Back then in the mid 2010s or even early 2010s, you can form your opinion and not so many people are as toxic as they are compared to nowadays. But hey, my famous saying is that the more toxic people that's on your post or on your page is the free engagement that they're giving to your page itself. Like, for me, one of the prime examples is that I shared a post about the old man in Celadon City with his original version of saying, oh, geez, wow, these girls are so great to look at. While in the Let's Go series, ooh, god damn, I have a cough. While in the Let's Go series, his dialogue changed completely. And everyone in the comments, not really everyone, large majority of people in the comments just mentioned like Donald Trump. And how he's censoring Pokemon. And you're like to yourself, Donald Trump has nothing to do with this post? Or with like censorship in general. Especially when it comes to Pokemon. It's just the censors nowadays. In terms of all these movements, all these like government stuff that's going on. And all these communities that has been rising up over the past decade. Has made things a lot harder for people to express their freedom of speech. With whatever opinions they might have. Like, you don't have to agree with people's opinions. But at the same time, you just need to listen to their point of view. You could agree to disagree and then just outright shutting them down. Or just denying them over their freedom of speech. That as a British guy, it is the case when it comes to you can't form your opinions. You can't say X, Y, and Z nowadays. Or people will just judge you. Or say X, Y, and Z about you. Although that's not the case in general. But hey, I don't really care personally. I post what I want to post. If I trigger people, so be it. It's more engagement for me, mate. But I do get where he's coming from.
He promotes growth within the community to where everybody's voice can be heard. Like, your opinion as a content creator, your opinion matters too. And to be so worried about the backlash from whatever it is that you might have to say is unfortunate, because while I understand that you have an image to protect or you've got, you know, so and so sponsoring you, I understand that point of view, but to limit yourself in such a conversation that's so vast, I feel it's unfortunate to see people not be willing to step out and say something and not just like yell and, okay, you know, these people are yelling or these guys are bad or they could, you know, do better. Not just to be, you know, antagonistic, but just to talk, to have the debates, the conversations. For me, I want to bring that back in any way that I can. I don't want people shouldn't have to be afraid to speak their mind. Correct.
This man is a fire starter, I tell you.
Into your experience with Pokemon, let's get people an idea of like who's the Pokemon side of your page.
Avengers level threat he is.
All start?
Pokemon for me started pretty much at the very beginning. It hit the States At that time, I was only like 4 years old, and to me, it was really just the TV show. Like it was just the anime, and I loved the anime. And then my mom and my dad, when they found out about the games, they got me the Pokemon games, and they didn't think anything of it. It's a kid with cute
That's
creatures,
how it's been for me
and
lately on my
they're
personal.
they're going on adventures
Yeah,
and stuff like
same.
that. So you don't
Same
think
with
anything
me.
about that as a parent. And it was almost a very, very short-lived career for me as a Pokemon fan, because both of my parents were very religious. And when it started coming out about the whole pocket monsters things and demons and this thing, they took like everything from me. Like my Game Boys were gone, my Pokemon games were gone, all my Pokemon bed sheets were like gone and thrown away, and it was jarring for me to lose this thing that like I had very quickly become super attached to because of what people were saying about it. And I wasn't really old enough to say, hey, but that's not what's happening. We're
Honestly,
not being
religious
manipulated
parents
or
are the worst
hypnotized, and all
when
this
it
other
comes to
stuff.
these type of
But
like
I was
media.
I was a little kid, so I didn't really get it. My grandfather pretty
The
much is the
cops I
reason that I
didn't do it
was able to
one.
stay into it,
Lol.
because he went and he bought me a second Game Boy and another Pokemon game, but he kept it at his house. So whenever, like, when I got the chance to play, like whenever I got to go over to his house, I would play, and I was just playing Pokemon. He encouraged and everything. Like he said, "Don't
Damn,
worry about that.
grandfather
I
is the
got you." Just
MVP, bro.
grandparent things. And over the years, my mom realized that it was not leaving me. Like she could not get Pokemon away from me, so she kind of gave up.
Good.
Like she really kind of gave up, and she was just like, "Look, as long as you keep your grades good, then whatever, it's fine." Around 2002, my dad passed away, and getting ready for his funeral and everything, I was on my way to my grandmother's house, and we were out at the store. It was me, my sister, my mom, my cousin, and my godbrother, and we were out, getting things prepared and everything. And being in New York, there's all kinds of stuff happening everywhere. There's a bunch of people around. You can keep up with most things, but you can't keep up with everything. So all of our stuff was in the trunk of our car, like all of our Christmas presents, all of our clothes, all of our Game Boys and everything like that were all in the trunk of the car. Somebody somehow had popped the trunk of our car, took all of our stuff out, like they stole all of our stuff, and closed it back without anybody noticing until we got to my grandmother's house and opened the trunk and nothing was there. And my heart was shattered, because at this point I done lost my father. Now I done lost my Pokemon games for the second time. And I
That's
was
tragic,
like,
man.
you know what? I quit. I can't, I can't be a Pokemon fan anymore. I'm like 8 years old, 9 years old.
My
I was just
condolences
as
over his
heartbroken over my dad
father's
passing
passing.
as me losing all my Game Boy games. Just got gold and silver, and it was like gut wrenching for me. I missed a little bit of that time. Fast forward a few years, I was getting into a lot of fights at school. I didn't have any Pokemon games, but I had a lot of Pokemon cards. Me getting into fights at school, my mom was not happy. My mom threw away every Pokemon card I had ever had from when they first came out. So like a lot of the first edition cards that are like probably now worth thousands of dollars, all gone, all trash. And then they were in the trash bag. Came home, bawling in tears, sad. You threw my Pokemon cards away, and she let me keep some of them. So I kept all the
that's
holographic
tragic,
ones,
man.
and my holographic Gengars and Mewtwo's and stuff like
All
that.
those
The Mew card from
Pokemon
the
cards,
movie.
the money,
I
dude.
kept all that stuff, and she actually made me take a pair of scissors and cut.
No, man. No. I'm sorry. That is just abuse right there. That is abuse right there. Like, why? Legit is reminding me of my own mum. It's somewhat triggering. Because I don't understand these parents. If you want to discipline your child, just take their stuff away. And hide their stuff. Or put their stuff somewhere. You don't, like, physically cut their stuff up. Especially if you spend money on their stuff. Like, if you purchase your son or your daughter, like, Pokemon cards, you're basically wasting your own money by doing that. It's just a waste of you doing that with your own money. As well as, it's just not right, man, doing that to a child. It messes with their head. It really does messes with their head. That's a form of abuse right there. You making your child cut off their on Pokemon cards will cut their own stuff or throw their own stuff away in the bin. That is just straight up abuse. And I will never condone that type of abuse. It's legit triggering me. It's reminding me so much of my mum and my dad when I used to live with one or the other. With how they handle like my consoles in general. Legit, I'm sorry, Unova, if you're going to listen to this at some point. But your mum is an abuser for that, Chief. I'm sorry for saying this. She's an abuser for this. I just do not condone this at all. Like, with me, I don't even speak to my parents anymore. Because I have that much of a bad connection with them. But with doing that to your own child, it messes with their mental psyche. If your child is misbehaving in school, like getting into fights or doing X, Y, and Z, the good old belt or slipper will do. It will put them straight up in line. You don't cut their own stuff like that or throw their own stuff like that. You hide their stuff or you put their stuff away, which they cannot reach or cannot find. Then when they do behave again, you could give them an incentive or like a little treat. Say, here you go, here's your stuff back again. But no, you don't just throw their stuff away and then spend even more money to get, those stuff back again. It's just stupid, man. It's stupid. If I ever become a dad, I won't even do that. I would just hide my kids' consoles, or I will put them somewhere where they can't find it. Then just physically throwing it away, or cutting it, or breaking it. Nah, man. It's triggering me listening to that.
Cut up every other card. So at this point, I'm 3 generations into Pokemon, and I've had 3 separate tragedies happen to me. And I got into one more fight at school, and the cards that she let me keep, I no longer could keep them. And they were gone. Like and I never saw them again. And to this day, I have not collected Pokemon cards because of that. It was
yeah, exactly.
Like,
it's a form of trauma.
I don't touch Pokemon cards anymore. I still have some that have been like given to me, or like Christmas present, birthday present. Like I still have some Pokemon cards, but as far as being a collector like I was when I was a kid, never again. Gen 4 was the same thing that happened to me in Gen 2. I had a DS and I had Pokemon Diamond. It was like a month after the games came out, and somebody that I thought was a friend of mine stole my DS and stole my Pokemon Diamond game. At this point, it wasn't like my mom wasn't going to replace the DS.
Of
course. That was a whole console. She wasn't replacing that. She wasn't replacing the game. So I missed out on Diamond, Pearl, Platinum, Heart Gold, Soul Silver, and Black and White 1 before I could get another DS.
That's tragic.
And at that point, I stopped watching the anime. Of course, I couldn't play the games unless I was like playing on an emulator. And for me, I was just done. I was done with Pokemon for all of Gen 4 and half of Gen 5. And I didn't start playing. I didn't get another DS again until I started.
Legit? I agree with you, Leroy. I could hear the pain in this man's voice. Because just imagine your first time being with like Pokemon in general. Then your parents starting to mess it up by throwing everything away. Or you either losing it or someone taking it from you with all your other attempts of trying to get back into the franchise. At that point, it would break me as well. It would break me as well. I wouldn't even get back into Pokemon at that point. Because, in my experience, if I get into Pokemon, right, and something bad happened to me while I'm trying to get back into Pokemon, not once, not twice, not 3 times, 4 times, then I would just give up with the franchise because it's somewhat of a curse. You will think to yourself, what's the point of me trying to get back in the franchise if everything's not going to work in my favor and it will just work against me in my life? So what's the point of this? Or any of this? So I do kind of relate with Brother Unova in a way when it comes to that. But yeah, man, it just sucks. You could hear the pain in this man's voice just saying it.
Started working. I got Heart Gold and Soul Silver, even though Black and White 2 were getting ready to come
Missing out all those new releases.
Now that I'm old enough to get my own games, that's exactly what I did. I got my own games. I did all my own stuff. Like, nobody was going to take anything from me.
Exactly.
I was going to enjoy myself. And this is also around the same time frame where I made my Facebook page, my original one. I would talk about Heart Gold and Soul Silver, and then I would start talking about Black and White 2. And now I'm like playing from behind, having to play all these games.
You know what? It's the same thing for me as
DS
well.
cartridge or on an emulator, trying to keep up with what everybody's talking about because I had no idea. And when I finally got myself in the groove of things, then Black and White 2 came out, and I was thankfully able to get that. And I played it for, I don't know, 8,000 or 9,000 hours. Like, it couldn't take me away from it at all. Like, it came to work with me, it went to school with me. It was on all of my trips, everything I did, my DS was with me.
I kind of agree
like
with that.
Whenever you started getting the games back, did you feel like you were taking back something maybe you had lost, or were you kind of starting new? You felt like you were starting kind of fresh?
Yeah, it was really rough. I felt like when I was finally able to come back, I felt like I was reclaiming my childhood. Like, I knew there were things that I wasn't going to really, like, go and buy and back. Like, I'm not going to go and buy Pokemon pajamas or Pokemon bed sheets or anything like that.
Oh, come on,
my
dude.
Let's go. You got your own money.
Exactly.
Don't get me wrong.
Exactly.
Now that I'm
I
like
want to
in my
see him in the
30s, yes, I have
Sharpedo
Pokemon
onesie.
pajamas. And yes, I have, I've got all the things.
Okay, gotcha.
But at that point where I'm in, like, my late teens or early 20s, I knew that I wanted to focus on the games. Like, give me all the games information. I was starting to get into competitive battling. One of my early competitive battling dreams was to battle Shofu, and I got a chance to do that. It went on YouTube. I got swept. It wasn't fun.
Honestly, Shofu is the GOAT of the Pokemon community. I remember watching Shofu all the time on Pokemon Showdown, and I always wanted to play against him. But instead of playing against Shofu, I played against PK, the God, or something like that. All I know is his original name, PK, before the allegations came about that man. But yeah, PK was a homie, dude. I used to talk to him quite a lot of times back then, and played against him on Pokemon Showdown. And he was a dope person to socialize with. And he was quite funny. And it was somewhat of my connection to try get to Shofu, although I haven't gotten close to Shofu. I only talked to Shofu once, and that was just for a short time. But yeah, PK was the homie before the allegations. Then I haven't spoken to him in like years, after like a few months or like up to a year, due to my dad as well as my mum back then type of situation. So I haven't spoken to him in years, until I found stuff about his allegations in the community, and I'm like, oh my goodness me, not these type of allegations, chief. Hell no. So yeah, I haven't even touched that connection ever since. But yeah, he was a great person to talk to or even battle against. But yeah, I do kind of relate to him with him getting swept.
But me battling Shofu was, like, at that time the highlight of my career because
Of
I
course.
could battle, at that time, the most famous competitive
course.
PokeTuber. It was like,
He was a
you got
big
to battle,
guy,
you got to battle
a
Shofu.
goat.
I was like, yeah. I mean, I lost, but yeah, I got to battle him. I got to battle him. I was so happy. I did not care.
Yeah.
You couldn't tell me anything. But what sucks about losing to Shofu is that, first of all, obviously he's an amazing battler. But I would have thought that, okay, Darmanitan's going to beat me or Heatran's going to beat me. No. If you go on YouTube and you watch that battle, I lost to Pikachu. Like, the first few turns of the battle started off great. I made one mistake, and it just spiraled all the way down to me losing to a Pikachu.
Do you think battling him was more about testing your skill or kind of being seen by somebody you looked up to?
I would say it was a little bit of both.
Yeah, for me, it would
I looked
be
up
both.
to him, and I knew I was still kind of like a budding competitive battler, but I knew I wasn't bad. And I figured that if I can have a good showing against him, then I can go and I can, try and talk to these other PokeTubers and maybe do some collabs, start, see if they can help me with my content creation because I want to get into the same field. Like, I want that to kind of be like, I guess, my catapult to
Stepping stone.
Yeah,
your stepping stone.
Yeah, my stepping stone into content creation and into competitive battling. And he did actually help me quite a bit as far as getting started goes. It was just at the time I couldn't really afford to get all the software because at that time, it was a DS era, so you had to go and get your DS modded or you had to get one of the Ace cards to record your content, which at that time I just couldn't afford it.
Yeah,
because I was
same.
pretty
I
much
couldn't afford
running my
no
own
capture
household. I was
card back
working
then.
full time, but I was also paying for an apartment and my car and everything like that. So a lot of my money was occupied to where I couldn't really keep up with it like they could. And now you see them, they're, where they are at their point in life, and I'm not exactly there, which is okay. Everybody's, walks of life are different. Everybody has those opportunities to do what they can. But I did get, the opportunity to battle a couple of people that were prominent at that time, like Hayden and 6 Foot Hacks and Yellow Swallow. And I battled Joey Pokane once. And I got a couple of wins off a couple of people, but they're like written off in history. I didn't have any way to record those battles. So
Yeah,
they're
I
there.
remember
But
Hayden.
I wanted to be seen. I wanted to be seen by, I wanted to be noticed. I wanted to say, hey, I gave this person a good, a good experience. How can I get myself in the door so that I can do the same?
It's crazy to think that this may have never happened had your grandfather not gave you the opportunity to experience Pokemon at his place.
Exactly.
Do you think that
his
maybe
grandfather
you
is
saw
the
some love in
MVP?
Pokemon that made him want to protect it for you? Like, what do you think the reason why he wanted you to experience Pokemon compared to what you saw from your parents?
Honestly, I'm not sure. I think it's just a different viewpoint. Like having like super religious parents and growing up in that household versus having a grandfather who was a lot more down to
Take him
earth.
up.
And
Yeah.
for me, like when you see kids like have a passion for something, generally speaking, like you want to nurture that. And he was very good at like nurturing the things that I was passionate about. And outside, like even outside of Pokemon, for me, like I was a huge Power Rangers fan. He went and I had this Power Rangers like CD-ROM math game, and I was like learning math while playing as a Power Ranger at the same time. And I had my Power Rangers Halloween costumes. Like Power Rangers and Pokemon were like my two fandoms. And it was easier to play Pokemon. It was easier to get myself into Pokemon because Power Rangers at that time was just a couple of toys and the TV show. But Pokemon is something that I could do. It's a learning opportunity at that, at that point, learning to read like longer sentences and learning how to problem solve and figure things out. And I think people underestimate the amount of learning and general motor skills and everything that you can get as a kid from playing Pokemon. And I think that he saw that, and he saw that I was learning how to do a lot of things just in general from playing Pokemon and having that passion for something that I didn't realize was going to be as big as it is for me now, like it was back then.
Now, when it came to Pokemon, we talked on like the first 5 generations a bit. Do you have a particular favorite set of games that you enjoyed the most out of those first half of the generation?
You know,
So my favorite
Unova.
generation,
He has to
I
be
would say, is
biased.
Generation 3. But my favorite
What?
game is Heart Gold and Soul Silver. Gen 3
Huh?
was just, for me, it was open. It was, in my opinion, like it had the coolest set of starters, and it was challenging. Like I could go and, for me, the memories that I remember like the most coming with Gen 3
This
is
ain't my
the
Unova
rival
region
battle with
champion
May or
Black.
Brandon
If he
on the
said
bridge under
Generation
the
2 is his
cycling road.
favorite.
And I remember losing to
Yeah,
May,
he is right.
like I couldn't even tell you how many times in a row before I finally got it, because I refused to change Pokemon. Like I absolutely refused to change whatever Pokemon I had on my team, and I kept losing because I wouldn't change or I wouldn't add something to it.
Yep,
I
I
was
could
just like,
relate.
oh man, I can't do this. Like, so the first time I beat it, I was just like jumping for joy. I was excited, and then getting through the rest of the game, the next part I got stuck at was Tate Liza's gym.
Yep,
It just seemed like no matter
yep,
what I
same.
did, no matter what Pokemon I put on my team, I couldn't win.
Same.
And here's where my favorite Pokemon comes into this. I went and got a Super Rod and I caught a Sharpedo. And I took Sharpedo to the gym because I was like, look, I don't know, what else to do. I know it's a water type, and I know that water beats 3 of their 4 Pokemon. So I took it, and Sharpedo just cleaned up house. It was like Sharpedo and Swampert, and they just cleaned up house. And I was like, okay. Like, I really like Sharpedo. Sharpedo pretty much took the whole gym down by itself.
And that instantly became your favorite Pokemon at that
Yes,
point.
it became my favorite Pokemon at that point. And the rest of the game, it was like, okay, we got through that. Sharpedo helped me beat Juan, and then Sharpedo helped me in the Elite Four against Phoebe. It was just like, dang, this Pokemon's really good.
Honestly,
It
I
can't take
never
many hits, but
did
it can
use
hit really hard.
Sharpedo in any of the mainline
It's literally
games.
a hit and run glass
It was a
cannon.
hit and
That's
run
really all
glass
it is.
cannon, but when it hit you, it hit hard.
Yeah.
And I love that because it was like Sharpedo went down. Let me go ahead and send out my Linoon and use my revive on Sharpedo, so when Linoon dies, I can send Sharpedo
Yeah,
back out and get another
sacrifice
kill and
that
might die
HM
again,
slave.
but I've got all these revives, I'm just going to keep bringing back Sharpedo. And that's what it was for me. But what really sucked me into Gen 3, specifically Pokemon Emerald, was the Battle Frontier. The Battle Frontier, to this day, is still like the hardest thing ever. I've still never collected.
Look, fun fact. With the Battlefront Tear, back then, when I was a kid, low-key, I couldn't find it. I saw it on the cartridge box with like the leaflet that explains you like your journey or something inside of it in the box, and I just couldn't find that place at all back then as a kid. I was wondering, how the hell do I get to Evergrande City? Wait, is it Evergrande? I think it's Evergrande. Or is it like the battle? I can't even remember. I couldn't find the Battlefront facility at all as a kid. I was struggling with finding it. Even with the like guides that's in the boxes itself. Probably due to my low IQ back then, let's be fair. But yeah, a few years later, in my late teens, I did like the Battlefront Tear, but I haven't really played it like that, or even gotten the symbols. But some point in time, I might want to try farm for those symbols, as a sense of like I accomplished something. So I might do that as a future live stream or like a challenge for myself. Damn, were you P? I was, dude. I was extremely annoyed. You couldn't imagine how annoyed I was back then. Legit, I gave up playing my Pokemon Emerald game because of it for like weeks. Then I went back on again, tried to find it, but couldn't find it, so I gave up on it again. Yeah, I was just extremely annoyed.
Did all 7 gold badges because I refuse to try the gold battle pyramid challenge. It looks like it's too hard because silver was too hard. I'm not doing gold. But Sharpedo, I think I had Sharpedo and Cradilly and another Pokemon that I had in the Battle Dome. And that was the first time I ever got any battle symbol. And I was like, dang, Sharpedo's really good in this game. And then just going forward and going through Gen 4 and like missing Gen 4 completely, I was just stuck on playing Gen 3 games. I played Gen 3. I played, it by itself. I played like ROM hacks of Fire Red, Leaf Green, and Emerald. And I was just so fixated on Gen 3. So I could just keep playing with Sharpedo and Cacturne and all the other Pokemon that I liked just in that one game. And I didn't really care about anything else. And then when I played Gen 4, and I don't even know where I could get Sharpedo in that game unless I had to like trade it up or something. But Gen 4 for me, like specifically like Diamond, Pearl, and Platinum, it just never really stuck with me. Like the Pokemon didn't stick with me. Barry was annoying, and I thought the story was cool, but it just felt like it dragged on. And then the Elite Four was kind of boring. Like we had a bug Elite Four, and I was just like, well, this whole thing is a cakewalk. My fire type here, and then my water type there for Bertha. And it was just like, this was boring. Cynthia wasn't hard for me. By the time I got to play Heart Gold and Soul Silver,
damn, this man's built different.
That was, for me, Heart Gold and Soul Silver, that was the first time I ever tried the Masuda method for shiny breeding. And I
this
had
man's
a shiny
built different.
Cyndaquil
I
and
struggled against some.
It was just small and cute.
And
it was like kindling a flame. And I just played the game through with my shiny Cyndaquil and the other random Pokemon that I would have. And it was the first time that I knew that Crobats evolved via friendship, because I had Cyndaquil and I had a Zubat and a Marie. And when my Zubat evolved into Golbat, and like the next level, it evolved into Crobat. And I was like, wait, you evolved at level 25? And then I went and looked it up on Cerebi, and it was like, oh, it evolved a high friendship. I was like, yeah, I don't know what I did, but I've been real good friends with Zubat.
You and Zubat are bros, man.
Yes, and then so I had Crobat by like the 4th gym, and Crobat and Typhlosion pretty much carried me for the entire game. And I was just like, dang, I bet I'm the only person that ever had a Crobat this early.
Dang, dude, that's some memories right there. I love it.
Mm-hmm. And I spent a lot of time at the Pokeathlon. Like I was gonna, break records. I was gonna be, the best person to ever do every event in the Pokeathlon. I spent so much time just doing that. Like I didn't care about the game. I didn't care about the post game. Mewtwo could wait, Red could wait. I was gonna master the Pokeathlon, whatever Pokemon I had to use.
Low-key,
I
that was the
had
best
Pokemon I'd
side
never used before,
content.
like Electrode. It was just for me
I
that was
honestly
super
love
duper
that
fun for
side
me, and I
content
would
quite a
go
lot.
back and do it again in a heartbeat and spend thousands of hours again at the Pokeathlon. So I think those two games, Emerald, I would say for Gen 3, and Heart Gold and Soul Silver are probably the two that resonate the most with me. And don't get me wrong, I know, my page is Unova Region Champion Black. I love Gen 3. I love Gen 5. I think Gen 5 still has the best story out of all the Pokemon, or out of all the Pokemon games. But I can't say that they're my favorite games because they're not. I do like what they did when they forced us to play with all new Pokemon in Black and White 1. But then I hate that they went and just erased all of that in Black and White 2. Like, I would rather play with all the new Pokemon. Let me fall in love with new Pokemon that are out there, like
Yep,
Scrafty and
exactly.
Jellicent and Crocodile and them. Like, I developed those bonds with those Pokemon too, but I don't know, it didn't resonate, it didn't stick with me. Outside of like competitive battling, getting into that stuff, Gen 5 didn't overall stick with me like the way Gen 3 and Heart Gold and Soul Silver did.
Yeah, I do
I
agree
want to
with
ask, because
him
you
on
mentioned
that.
Pokeathlon. What was it about that specific mechanic or part of the game from Heart Gold Soul Silver that you enjoyed compared to the main series?
It was different, and it was actually difficult because it wasn't really hand-holdy. It wasn't the same, turn-based stuff. You're actually out here and you're tapping your DS screen, and you're being the one. Like, you can't tap too fast because you don't want to mess up,
Yeah.
but you can't tap too little and then be behind.
It sounds like it was more skillful.
It was
sounds
a
like
lot
what you
more
enjoyed.
skillful than just a normal battle. For me, that was like everything, because like it genuinely challenged me, because certain Pokemon have certain stats, and if you
Yeah.
want to be the best, you have to use those Pokemon that are the best. Like, okay, Weavile and Electrode are going to be, those fast Pokemon. If you're running a race, you want them there.
Yeah, I
But then
remember
there were
always
strength
using
competitions, there were
Electrode.
jumping competitions, and obviously jumping competitions, you want to have a flying type, and strength competitions, you might want a fighting type or a rock type, something that's bigger and stronger. But you could only pick a certain amount of Pokemon on your team. So to find that niche of the right combination of Pokemon that's going to give you the things that you need for whatever those events are, because they changed every time. So you never really knew exactly what 3 events you were going to get in what order, and you had to plan your team ahead to have that balance, but to be good everywhere too.
Hey, you. Yes, you with the ears. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. Love hearing real stories from real trainers? Help As the Pokeball Turns become the best Pokemon interview podcast like no one ever was. By joining our Patreon, you're not just supporting the show, you're helping more fans share their journeys with the world. As a thank you, you'll get a custom Pokemon wristband each month, themed after a featured Pokemon. Head on over to patreon.com/asthepokeballturns and join our community today. Now, after Gen 5, we get Gen 6. And that's kind of where I say Pokemon started getting easier. You didn't have to grind as much.
After Gen 6,
I would
it
say
was
the challenges
hand
were a
holding.
lot less available. Did you notice that, and what did you think of that sudden change?
I can agree with that. I feel like the tutorials got a little bit longer in the 3D era
tell
of
me,
games.
it was just a
Cutscenes
drag.
were pretty good, but they would drag on, and maybe that's just like the capabilities of the DS and the 3DS back then. But it was a lot of, I don't want to say hand-holding, because I know that phrase gets thrown around a lot.
No,
But
it was hand
definitely
holding.
a little bit easier. I think all the way from your rivals giving you items to help you along in your journey, to them really just in general not being very strong in a sense. Like, you had one rival that was actually a rival, and then you had 3 other people that were just friends. Like, I was okay with that, but I understand why a lot of people wouldn't, because they really just weren't a challenge at all, and it just kind of took away from the overall experience. But I do think that they got a lot of stuff right in the 3D era of games. Just like in general, like I look at Mega Evolution. I think Mega Evolution was a good concept with less than stellar execution. But I do think that being 3D, they took more focus on world building than gameplay. It's a very thin line to walk on, because with the sprite era of Pokemon, you focus primarily on the gameplay up until maybe Gen 5, and then you started looking at more story-based, aspects of Pokemon. But in Gen 6, I feel like they did a lot of things right and a lot of things wrong in terms of they sacrificed a lot of how the game looks and how the game plays for the sake of the story or the sake of certain mechanics. And if they could have balanced it a little bit better, at least in Gen 6 specifically, they could have balanced it a little bit better. I think the games would have been fine. In Gen 7, they kind of did the same thing, but they focused really heavily on the story. And then the games got a lot easier. But the mechanic, in my opinion, got a little bit better because, like how Mega Evolution is only available to a certain few Pokemon, you had Z moves, which there were different types of Z moves. You had signature Z moves that only a few Pokemon had, but Z moves as a whole was available to everybody. I think that part of it was great. I think that they executed it really well. It maybe could have been a little bit better, but I think it was really well because it didn't necessarily change the entire outcome of the battle like the way Mega Evolution did. And you had this Mega Evolved Pokemon for the entire rest of the battle. This Pokemon now, it just changed its typing and its stats just changed, its ability changed, and now you're getting swept by somebody's Mega Salamence. But a Z move was just like a one-off nuke, and it might have affected a turn or two, but it doesn't necessarily have an impact on the entire battle in most cases. And then Gen 7 got rid of like the PSS, which I think was like the best thing that Pokemon did as far as online connectivity. Like
Agreed.
getting rid of
GTS
the Friend
sucked.
Safari was kind of hurt because I like the Friend Safari a lot. And I know a lot of
Yeah,
people
I
like the
love
Friend
that
Safari.
as well. The
And
Friend
then you had
Safari.
already the friendship mechanic, but then you had this happiness meter, and they were like two different things for no reason at all. Like, why do we have friendship and happiness? Like, they should be the same thing. And even though now it's the same thing, it should have been the same thing when they introduced it because this Pokemon evolves
Wait,
with high
there's
happiness,
two
but this
of
Pokemon
them?
evolves with
I
high
thought it was
friendship.
just
And
the same.
but why? Right. And it's it was just like why did you introduce this mechanic and it literally does all the same things as the one you already had in place. It just got weird, but I do like I think Gen 7 had Pokemon to Me. It was either Pokemon to Me or Pokemon Refresh that Gen 7 had. I never touched that. I just didn't care. But I don't think it was bad. A lot of people did like it. A lot of people used it. But I just personally did not care about that. If I wanted my Pokemon to be happy, we were going to go and we were going to do a lot of battles. And I was going to keep you from dying. I was going to do the normal happiness, friendship stuff that everybody else does. You want a Soothe Bell? Here, take the Soothe Bell too. But Gen 7 for me, and up until now, where I'm doing a Sunflora solo run through every Pokemon game, and I'm playing Alola again, Gen 7 is the only Pokemon game that I never went back and replayed at even one time.
Really? How
Yes.
come?
Honestly, it was the story, and Gen 7 for me almost got me back out of Pokemon because I thought that the characters looked kind of weird. They were kind of like this super stale faced to me. And even though I like the concept of not having gyms anymore, the characters I couldn't necessarily connect with. And while I was just growing up and doing adult life things, when they were talking about how Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon were pretty much just a copy and paste of Sun and Moon, I was like, well, why would I go and get the exact same game again, but only with a couple of changes? It didn't occur to me that every other previous, like, third iteration of every game was pretty much that. But at that time, I was just like, well, if it's the exact same game, then I don't want to play it because I've already seen this storyline. At least in the other games, they either merged storylines together or they changed it enough to where it was interesting. But I was already not interested in the story of Sun and Moon. So to go and play it again and have nothing change was just kind of like, yeah, I'm good. I don't need to play it. And it wasn't until I think Generation 8 when I found out about Ultra Necrozma and Team Rainbow Rocket and all of those things. But I was like, okay, well, all of that's post game. I don't care to go through the game again just to get to that. So I just never went back.
And I think that's what ruined it for me too, because that's when I stopped because I was playing Pokemon Go, and it's like you already it's the same game. I'm like, why would I go through that? Like, you made me spend X amount of money to buy the same game with the same stuff, but only thing that's different is the post game,
Exactly.
and it left the bad taste in my mouth. I agree with you.
Like that was it really. Okay, I was like, yeah, it might be my time to take a break from Pokemon again. That's when I was really kind of getting back into Pokemon Go, and I was like really, really big into it. I had just moved to where I'm at now, I was just trying to really just find some friends that played Pokemon. And I found a Pokemon Go server, like a local Pokemon Go server. Got to a point where I was
Pokemon
so involved in
Go.
that server where they was like, "Hey, do you want to be admin?" Because I was always posting like all the latest updates. Like before everybody else was like posting them, I was already on it. Like you would have thought that I was like Cerebi or one of these other news outlets. I was there the moment the stuff was released. It was already getting posted into the Discord server. And they added me as an admin. I was helping schedule like local events and stuff like that and local get-togethers and stuff. And it was great for a while. Like it was great for like a really long time. And that was my way to stay within the Pokemon franchise, but step away from the main games until I saw something that was interesting. And, you know, seeing Gen 8, a lot of people, I was like, okay, you know, the starters look kind of cool and everything. Like I understood everything thematically. I didn't really care for like Grookey at the time. I just didn't. I cared about Cineras, Scorbunny, and
Honestly,
the
I
little
kind
ones.
of did like
Yeah,
Generation
Sabo.
8 more than
And
Generation
I liked
7.
them. I thought that Sabo was like the cutest
With
thing in the
Sun
world.
and Moon. I'm not talking
it
about
was like,
Ultra
Sabo's
version.
so soft. It's crying. I'm like, so what?
Yes,
So what?
So what is
seeing
it?
I was
Kind
like,
Soul
that
Ball
thing
was
probably
something.
evolves into something really cool, and then it did.
Yeah.
I was like, this man,
Pokemon
this
Go.
is James
Ugh.
Pond. This
Proper,
is 007 James Pond.
007 and Tillion, yeah.
Yes, and I was like, yep. See, I told you, just let them cook. I told y'all. And between doing Pokemon Go and then Sword and Shield, when I first
Pokemon
found
Go.
out about Dexant, like I had mixed feelings about it because they announced that some Pokemon aren't going to make it into the game. For me, I didn't necessarily care. I didn't really pay too much attention as to why, you know, what their reason was. I just wanted to know, is Sharpedo in the game? Because if I can't play as Sharpedo, I
Of
will be
course!
sad. And then Sharpedo was not in the game. And I was like,
Devastated.
man, y'all just ruined it for me. Like I was fine
Yeah.
until that point. where
Howdy,
they-
Mike.
when
Welcome to the
decks got
stream.
leaked, and I saw that Sharpedo was not on the list. I was like, oh no, what am I going to do?
Devastation
That's
right
my
there.
homeboy.
That's my homeboy.
That's my partner, yeah.
Like we done been through so many
My
games
homie is
together,
gone
and you
from
telling
the
me,
decks.
and then not only that, but they cut like 90% of the starters out. So now I don't have my favorite set of starters.
Yep.
I don't even have my second favorite set of starters, and I'm like, okay, well at least I have Lantern, at least I
Love
have
you, bro.
Jellicent,
No
and then I've got
homo.
James Pond. So I'm gonna do a mono.
No
My first
homo.
run was a mono water run through the game. And I had so much fun doing that because I was like, I'm gonna at least get one new Pokemon. So I think Dreadnought was my new water type, and Sabo, of course. So I had them
Okay.
two representing the new, and then I had Gyarados and Jellicent and Lantern, and I was like, yeah, this is the team. And I swapped out Dreadnought, I think, for Gastrodon, just because Gastrodon just kind of like felt better on the team when I was actually using it. And
It's also a better Pokemon.
it's a
too,
much
yeah.
better Pokemon.
Honestly, I
And
don't remember these
I
names.
was just blowing
Like,
through the game.
if I see the
Gastrodon and
pictures, I will
Jellicent were,
remember
like,
their
my
names.
MVPs. And even though my battle with Raihan and my battle with Leon were kind of difficult, but like I enjoyed
Raihan
the stadium
was
feel
difficult. He was
and like having
easy
this,
for me.
this is what Pokemon is. This is what Pokemon should be. Like when I see any anime when they're always in these big stadiums for the Pokemon League, that's what I see when I see this game. And for me, the story in itself kind of lackluster. Like you don't
Yeah.
really get to the story until the end of the
I agree.
game, basically, which kind of sucked. But I almost didn't care because I was having fun anyways. I enjoyed going through the wild area. It was a little bit barren, but I enjoyed going through it. I enjoyed the fact that the first thing I ran into was a level 60 Onyx, and I couldn't run away, and I like lost all my Pokemon. And I was like, what on earth is this? Why am I running into a level 60 Onyx and I've got like one badge?
The skill level just went way high.
The skill level went way high up. I thought I could catch it, and it was like, no, you ain't got enough badges to even try to catch this. And I was like, oh, okay.
Dreadnought.
All right, so
Honestly, I
know not to
don't
come
know
back
what
here
that
anytime
Pokemon
soon.
is. If I
At that
see it, I will
point,
know.
I was getting back into competitive, and because of COVID and everything, I had kind of slowed down on the Pokemon Go playing for obvious reasons.
Ugh,
But
Pokemon Go.
overall,
Ugh.
I was like really hyped. But I was a little bit late to the party because I didn't get my Switch until the year after Sword and Shield came. So I was kind of like trying not to spoil myself, like by watching all the videos and watching people play online.
It's hard
and
to though, yeah.
it was so hard because I wanted to watch it, but I wanted to have that experience for myself whenever that time came. And then when I finally got to experience it, it was amazing because at this point I had taken, that break from the middle of Gen 7 to now, and it was a lot of it, like all of it was cool. Like my rival Bede was like, he was mean, he was cool, and even though he had psychic type Pokemon, which I thought was
Really?
stupid, and then he
For
switched
me,
from
he was
psychic to
just a
fairy, which I
jobber.
thought was even worse. I'm sorry. I
Dang.
did. I was like, dude, you were good. Like, if you'd have stayed the psychic type gym leader, and I understand they had him training under Opal. Opal done transformed him into a fairy type gym leader, and it was okay. But I would have rather had him, with his Reuniclus and not like Galarian Rapidash. But it was fine. Like, I thought Marnie was cool. The only thing I think about the gym challenge in Sword and Shield that bothered me was getting to Piers and getting to like that area, because the fact that Gen 5 had Roxy and had like recorded voice singing and everything in that gym,
Oh,
and then Piers, who's
yes.
literally on a
It's
stage,
just quiet.
doesn't have any type of voice
It's
acting, doesn't have any
silent.
type of recording, and it's literally
And
just
there's
his body
no
moving, and you see
music.
him talking, but you don't hear anything. It
Yeah.
rubbed me the wrong way for like those 30 minutes that I was there.
Yeah,
And
I
then
agree.
I kind of like just had to pretend like none of it ever happened while I was going on the rest of my journey. But then it was just like the rest of the game for me was fine because now we're starting to get into the story and the Dynamax Pokemon going everywhere. But by the time I finished the story, I was starting pretty much a new chapter of my life with Pokemon, and I was getting into like Draft League, and I pretty much shifted my entire life focus into competitive Pokemon and Draft League in particular. So I stopped caring about pretty much everything else. And I was going to go and play Pokemon in this NFL style competition, this NFL style like draft season. For me, that was pretty much been like the focal point of my life.
Really, you really love the draft format compared to the fixed meta, I assume.
Yeah.
What do you prefer over that compared to like going to like say a VGC or a Smoggin tournament? What does the draft league offer for you?
For me, Draft League is it's a lot more diverse. Because even though Draft League does have its set of rules, and a lot of draft leagues, in fact, most draft leagues follow some aspects of like Smogon's rule set and everything, and that's, they are balanced. Some of the rules they don't follow. They have different, tiering systems. Like you have points tiers, and then you have, okay, well, you just choose one from each section, and then you have like some extra Pokemon that you can choose.
Honestly, I don't understand
it
none
was
of this.
a much more
Personally.
diverse experience to see people at all skill levels and to see people even that were really good. Like, okay, yeah, but you're forced to have these Pokemon that are not as good. Like, if I have to, like, seeing people do well with, Urshifu is, it's normal. You expect that. But then when you go and you have these people that are playing with Thwackey and
No,
like other
rescue
like first and
police.
second stage Pokemon, you're just like, dang, this guy can play with anything and make it look good. And I remember one of my best friends since I've been in Draft League was like just destroying everybody with Thwackey. And I'm like, it can't be that
Thwackey?
good. It cannot be that good.
Who the
It's
hell
like
is Thwackey?
and then I had another friend that was just beating everybody with Raboot. And I was like, I know Libero is good, but it's not that good. Especially not on,
Who the hell is
on evolved
Thwackey?
Pokemon.
And
He was like, I don't know, man. You
Grand
just slap a
Ball?
choice band on it and
Is
let
it
it go. And in
Grand
the
Ball?
right situation, you just let it go to work. And so I'm very stuck in my ways when it comes to competitive battling, and I'm
Yeah, I
gonna
agree.
use what I want. So my first experience with Draft League, I went with all water types because I thought that was the right thing to do.
Yeah, I agree with you, Mike. That the best part about Generation 5 is the unlimited TMs. That's what I kind of did like them compared to the previous games, where you could only get 1 or 2 TMs of a certain item, or you just waste all your money on those said TMs. While Black and White, you just fight once and boom, bam, bim. You just tend to just use as many like of them as you can, and it just doesn't go away. In a part of Emerald, you don't have that. In my emulator, I use some codes to get the TMs to make good move sets. I mean, that's emulation now. If it's in terms of the base game, then yeah, you're just limited like everything else. But yeah, I do agree with you about the Generation 5 games making that as a pivotal quality of life change, which does benefit everyone in general. I can't remember, was it Generation 4 when it comes to the HMs? When they changed the HM somewhat? Or was that Generation 6 or 7? I can't remember. It's one of the generations they introduced a brand new change to the HMs. And it did give that quality of life to the HMs, which was, great to have for the series.
And it was not the right thing to do. And I got for the entire season, because they was a full like NFL season, like 17 weeks, 32 teams, like it was a real like NFL style draft league. And I ended that season 4-12. And then the next season, my friends, they convinced me to stop doing that and stop running like all water types.
Oh, you're ready to double down on it, sounds like.
I was so ready. I was so ready because we had gotten into, at this point in the second season, the second DLC had came out, the Crown Charger had came out, and we had access to more Pokemon. And I had already had Sharpedo from last season. Like I was ready. I don't care. I'm here to have fun, not necessarily to win. They were just like, no, just take it serious. Just take it serious one time and just see how you do. So I built my team. I still built it around rain, around like the rain archetype, but I didn't build it around water type specifically. And sure enough, I went 13-3 that season. And even though I got eliminated in the first round of the playoffs, it was like I had the best record in the league. And I was like, okay, I'm actually decent at Pokemon. And it wasn't like, okay, it was just the fact that I had all water types versus, when I have a diverse team and I can actually use it. I kind of dipped away from Pokemon Go and I stick straight to Draft League until I got into VGC, and that's a whole nother story.
You mentioned something about how you're doing a Sunflower versus all the games, right? You're just soloing the games with Sunflower.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask, like, how did that idea develop and how far are you into this journey?
Okay, so this started back in Black and White
currently.
And this is back when like the original Facebook community was really kind of like popping. So me and I think 6 or 7 other page admins, we decided to have a challenge on who could beat the Black and White 2 Elite Four, like the Pokemon League, with the weakest Pokemon. At this point, I think in VGC, like Pachirisu had just won the World Championships and everything. And we were going to try and see what's the weakest Pokemon we can beat the Pokemon League with. So we went and we had a Ditto clear the Pokemon League. We had Pachirisu clear the Pokemon League. We had a Plusle and a Minun separately each clear the Pokemon League. Pikachu did it. I did it with Chikorita, and that was like the hardest thing I ever had to do in my life.
Of course, Chikorita's a struggle.
I love
the
Chikorita line. I love the entire line, but that Pokemon League,
it's a huge disadvantage. Yeah.
I mean, my Chikorita was level 100, and it was like EV trained and everything, but it was insanely difficult.
Yeah,
but I got it done.
I'm sure. Yeah,
Chikorita, at the very least, its stats are balanced, and it has moves to support itself, and that was okay. And then we went and we actually looked up, okay, well, what are the weakest Pokemon? Like, okay, we got Tynamo, and then you got like Ladian, like the weakest, evolved, or maybe not even evolved, the weakest like fully evolved Pokemon. You're looking at the Sunfloras and the Ladians and those Pokemon. So my friend Kyle, I think he took the Ladian challenge and I took Sunflora. And he blew through it. Like he did his in like 30 minutes and was done. And me, I took a lot longer. I was struggling. Don't get me wrong. I had all the hyper potions and max potions and everything that I could think of to help me get past this.
Oh, so using items too.
Oh yeah. We had to use for some of them. We had to. We couldn't just deny ourselves items because otherwise it would probably be impossible.
That'd be torture. Yeah.
So it was like, so we did all of those. Like when I was doing my Sunflora one, I want to say it took me probably about 20 tries, but I had saved within the Pokemon League, so I didn't really have a choice but to like keep doing it. And every time I would go and beat one of the Elite Four members, I would save the game. So the only way I'm backing out of this is if I decide that I'm going to accept the loss and then start all the way over again. And I was like, I'm not doing that. I'm not starting all the way over. And I got through the Psychic Elite Four, and I got through Caitlyn, and I got through Marshall. and I struggled with Grimsley. Grimsley was just extreme. I don't know why, but he was extremely hard for me to get past.
Before you continue, so is this before you beat the national deck, or before the is this the pre-national decks or post-national decks?
This is post-national
Elite Four.
decks. Like, so I played through the game
crap.
already.
Oh my god! Okay, so here's what you're facing. You're facing Scrafty's going to be a pain in the butt. You've got Bisharp, Drapion, and Liepard.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my god! Yeah, that's going to give you trouble. I'm sorry. Continue.
Yeah.
No, it was it was a mess.
Rest in
for
peace.
the longest. I kept getting crit by Drapion, and I kept getting hit and poison. Like, okay, well, I'm taking this turn to heal myself, but then I'm getting hit right back again, and it was frustrating. And I don't even remember how I did it, but eventually I got past the Elite Four, and then I had to deal with, I think it was Black and White too, so it was like Iris, and dealing with all of her Pokemon and her dragons.
Iris was a threat.
I thought I had
back then.
recorded the entire battle because I actually had like a physical digital camera, and I was like holding it up to my screen as I was like trying to play at the same time. And it took me, I think, 5 or 6 tries, but I was determined to get it right because at this point I understood the pattern of how the computer plays against me. And I was like, okay, I can do this, I can do that, I can do that. And then when I recorded that last battle that I actually won, but I wasn't paying attention to how I was holding the camera. So I held the camera, but me moving with my other hand, I like turned the camera like completely away from the screen. So I didn't even record me beating her, like actually beating her, until like I knocked out like her last Pokemon.
Honestly, you should
So
do
I
the
literally
black and
saw
white
the ending
too.
of me beating her.
I know he
and
says
was
he
like,
doesn't want to
no,
do
I
it,
missed
but I
all
wish
that.
he
I'm never
would.
doing it again.
It would be
I was like,
hilarious.
because I was so ready. I'm like, I'm gonna record this. I'm putting it on YouTube. How I beat Black and White 2 Elite Four with just the Sunflora. I was ready, and I ruined the whole thing.
Well, why keep doing it though? Because I mean, you could just stop, but you're kind of torturing yourself. Why would you keep
I
going
love
to do
it.
this with the Sunflora?
It was fun. Maybe
This is fun for you.
look, it was like
This
it was
man's
such
a
a weird, like guilty pleasure. Like
masochist.
I was
He
determined.
loves that
I'm not going to
torture.
let this. I'm not going to let this game beat me. This is the hardest challenge ever, but I will not lose it.
That's some determination. I know. Why.
Yes, and when I finally, honestly, if Gen 6 didn't have the O powers, I probably would have quit. I actually probably
Yeah.
would have quit. But when I
Right.
started using those O powers a little bit more, and like so that I could survive hits long enough to do something, then I was like, okay, just don't forget this when it comes to like the Elite Four. And I was still struggling, but I wasn't struggling as much. And I got to a point, I think right after I got 8 badges, and I was on that bridge. I was on the bridge and I had to battle all 4 of my rivals like back to back to back. I beat the first 2 easy. And I want to say it was Tierno, and he had a Talonflame. No, it was either Tierno or Trevor. One of them had a Talonflame.
I remember
And I'm
how
like,
he got
okay,
destroyed
here's
by the
worse Golbat.
Gothic.
Here's another Pokemon
With
that resists
back-to-back
all of my attacks.
battles
And has
from
Gale
his
Wing, so it's not even like I can never
rivals.
outspeed it because it
3
has
in a row.
no priority flying.
That
type
was just
attacks.
hilarious. To
I
me.
got stuck. I was streaming at this point. I had just started streaming because I had gotten to a roadblock at this battle, and I lost so many times in a row that I just stopped streaming. I was like, you guys,
I loved
can't
it.
do
I love
I'm
seeing his
beyond
torture. I really
frustrated.
do.
I will come back when I have come up with a game plan to beat this thing because I am losing
Seeing
my
this
mind.
man gets
The O
tortured
powers
was
didn't help
one.
me. Nothing helped me.
Perfect.
I was just losing. I don't even to this day. I don't really know how I beat that. I think I lived was a Brave Bird or something like by I don't know by accident or damage roll or something, and I got a critical hit return, and it put me in range to where that I would be able to beat it. The Pokemon League, I was like, okay, I know it's Water, Fire, Steel, Dragon.
Okay, I will stop you right there, brother Unova. Yeah, he's built different. Yeah, he is built different. Low-key, I want to do these challenges as well. So far, I've only been doing like the starter challenges. Like the Kanto starters for the Pokemon Yellow. As well as the solo starter for Pokemon Emerald. So I do kind of like those challenges of me doing it in like one sitting for like several hours. Although it is kind of painful to do and to get through, but I do kind of do like them because it tests me out to when it comes to battling and how I should manage with one Pokemon in general. So I do kind of do love those challenges. I might do like a ROM hack at some point once I do some more testing when it comes to streaming on my like streams in general for any of these games. So I'm thinking of doing more ROM hacks to challenge myself and go through with it, since it could help improve me as a trainer as well as a Pokemon lover. Okay, Mike, what do you think about Mega Evolutions? Mega Evolutions are quite fun. I'm not going to lie, it's quite fun to witness, to use in battle against other trainers, and just to, see. So my favorite Mega Evolution is a bit overrated, but Charizard X is my favorite. Same with like Rayquaza, Mega Evolution, and who else? Rayquaza, Charizard, and Metagross, Mega Evolution. And is there anyone else? Blaziken. Yeah, Blaziken's Mega Evolution I did like. And everyone else's were okay. So I wish we got more of them, like over the past generations. But I do know that we're going to have more of them in the upcoming Legend ZA game, which I cannot wait to play or stream or whatever that's going to happen at that time, and see all those new Mega Evolutions. So I do kind of like Mega Evolutions as a whole, in terms of a gimmick, compared to all the other gimmicks that we have, like the Z move gimmick, the Gigantamax gimmick, and the Tower gimmick. So if I were to rate the gimmicks, it will be Mega Evolutions, Tower, and it will be Z moves, then Gigantamax, which will be the very last. So that's how I would rate the gimmicks in general. Although the Generation 7 and 8 gimmick was kind of ridiculous. But yeah, it's a double-edged sword for me. The best and more challenging Battle Tower was back then in Pokemon Crystal. Pokemon Crystal Battle Tower, I haven't played through it yet. Same with Pokemon Emerald Battle Tower. I haven't played through that either. All the battle pyramids. I haven't done any of that, but at some point I would want to stream that, of me doing it in like one sitting or something like that, if I don't have any other games to play. And I will just do those challenges, since I do have those save files of those games that I'm at the very end, and I will just use other like Pokemon to go past the time when it comes to that. But yeah, let's just continue. We have 7 minutes
I know
left.
I can get through water pretty easily. Steel is probably not going to be too hard because it doesn't have a scissor. I just have to worry about all the X scissors and the aerial ace. And I was like, but I can handle that. Dragon's probably going to be the next hard one. And then, of course, there's fire. Malva was an experience I would love to forget because I could never get past her Houndoom. I think she would always send out Houndoom second. And like, even though I got past, her first Pokemon, then you send out your Houndoom next, and it was just like, okay, hey, I'm going to pretty much just kill you with like flamethrower just because I can. It was hard enough getting past Pyroar, so it was just like I gotta use my special defense O powers and get my Leech Seed off and protect, and at least hit you with one return or a Giga Drain, and hope you don't just straight up kill me with like Flame Wheel or Stone Edge again. And just pretty much stall until Torkoal died. And then Chandelure came out, and I died to Flamethrower a lot. Like, a whole lot.
That poor Sunflower got burned.
It did. I couldn't
Sunflower
figure it
got
out. And there was another
decimated.
episode where I just kind of like, I quit. I need to stop, refocus, figure out what I need to do. So I decided that instead of saving after each Elite Four member, knowing that I was stuck with Malva, I would constantly go back and I would keep using my special defense O powers to level it up. Like, just strictly for the sake of leveling up, I would go into matches and I would lose on purpose because I was going to level this up at least to level 2, so I know I can take one hit or maybe 2 hits and do something back.
Honestly, I don't even know what O power is.
Because at that point I knew what to do against them. And then Diantha, the first time I kind of like went in raw, no O powers, no nothing. and she led Hawlucha, and I didn't realize how strong Hawlucha was until it went.
Oh yeah, I remember
And I
how
was like,
Lucha decimated this man.
I didn't think he was that strong. I'm like, I know Hawlucha's fast, but I don't remember being very strong.
I think he was
And
with
then I
Flying
died.
Press.
Gotta put some respect
That
on the end of his
decimated.
name.
I have to. After that, I was like, okay, so I do need the O powers. So at this point, my defense O power is at level 2. So I'm like, okay, I'm gonna start with defense O power level 2, and then when I get in the battle, I'm gonna use an X defend on top of that. And so I was at like +3 defense, like by turn 1 of the battle. And at this point, Hawlucha just can't touch me. And the moment I like got past Hawlucha, it was pretty much over. Like I clicked return twice and it was dead. And then I just clicked Mega Drain or Giga Drain against like almost everything else she had on her team.
Yeah, that was kind of the hardest one out of everything else. Everything else is pretty easy.
Yeah. Now Alola, I'm in Alola now, and this is giving me very much Team Galactic vibes. Even though there isn't really like a bad team. You know, you have the Aether Foundation and everything, but the trial captains, the totem Pokemon are so stupidly difficult.
Yeah.
I think that if it was just them, that it would probably be easier for me to deal with. But when they go and they call a friend,
Call for
I'm
help.
like, okay, I have 2 targets that I have to deal with. I have
Then
to
it
take
will
them
be
both
3
out because they're both
targets.
doing damage to me, and I'm not gonna survive if I don't. Alola hasn't been hard. There are parts of it that are kind of like difficult, but Alola hasn't really been like super hard. I did run into a little bit of trouble with Guzma and Alola Eradicate, but like even Totem Como, I'm pretty sure I beat on the first try, and most of the trial captains I was able to overcome relatively easily. I got to
Because-
the Elite Four. Like I'm
Because
finally
he
at the
could
Pokemon
use
Elite.
any move,
So
my
Olivia's
dude.
one of them. I'll be able to beat her pretty easily.
It's
And then,
cheating.
you have
Redo
Hala
it.
and Acerola, and I can't remember what the name of the flying Elite Four is, but like all of them, I'm like, okay, those will be a little bit harder.
Well, Sharpie, you've been a wonderful guest. I want to finish on one final question to close out this podcast episode.
Yeah,
It seems like you have an affinity for water type Pokemon. Is that kind of your favorite type?
it is.
So I want to give me your dream water Pokemon team.
6 Pokemon. Well, Sharpedo's first, of course.
Of course.
Of course. I guess we're going Mega, maybe?
So I don't like Sharpedo's Mega. I don't like the design of it, and I think they could have done better with its ability and everything like that. I like base Sharpedo more than Mega Sharpedo. My second one is Lantern. Lantern is my second favorite Pokemon of all time.
Yes.
Lantern.
So, and
That's
it's such a polar
electric
opposite
water,
from
isn't
Sharpedo.
it?
Like Sharpedo is just dark and angry Pokemon.
Yeah, it
and
is
Lantern is just
Generation
like
3.
smiley, happy, cute. And then I get Volt Absorb, so I get to redirect those electric attacks and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So my third Pokemon
Has to be
my third
Mudkip.
water type Pokemon,
Or Swampert.
probably Politoed.
Okay.
Politoed has
Get that drizzle going.
hmm That's what it has been
For the
my
bulk
clutch, or it's one of the Pokemon that's always been
Or
clutch for me in competitive
Azumarill.
battling.
as well.
So it's got a special place in my heart. My fourth Pokemon probably be
Has to
I'll
be
say Jellicent.
Swampert.
Jellicent. Gives me
It
it's
has to
another
be
bulky
Swampert
option
or
that I can do a lot
Azumarill.
with, like especially now with String Sap, and I'm thinking strictly competitive. Like this is
Yeah.
I can take on everything with these 6 water Pokemon, and I would be happy. Like so, yeah,
Hey.
it would be Sharpedo,
Yeah.
Lantern,
Go
Politoed,
for it.
Jellicent.
I know
And
Politoed
then
used to be
my fifth
meta
and sixth Pokemon.
with the drizzle.
My 5th is Ludicolo. Ludicolo for sure, and I would like to thank Mirror B from Pokemon Coliseum and XD for that.
Music lives rent free.
Yeah, I kind of do
Yes.
see that happening. Ludicolo
And
for him.
then, oh man, what would my last one be? I think my last Pokemon would be the Pokemon that was my favorite before Sharpedo existed, and that's Poliwrath.
Ooh,
Poliwrath.
Poly's on there.
Yeah, both Polys on here.
Poliwrath.
Poliwrath was my very first
Didn't
favorite
expect
Pokemon.
that.
And I like Poliwrath because it is bulky. It is a good, strong, bulky attacker, but it also gets Swift Swim, and it can be fast. Like if I need to be fast, it can be fast. And having that, that type diversity, having a dark type, an electric type, a grass type, fighting type, like I think that having that team diversity, I can take on everything. I've got physical attackers, I've got special attackers, I've got bulky Pokemon, I've got fast Pokemon that aren't necessarily bulky. And I like that diverse. I like water types because there's so many of them.
I mean,
and
you could.
they're all so diverse with what they do.
Well, Sharpie, thank you for coming on. As
Yeah, you
Football
could
Turns.
just
If people want to check
use
out your content, if they want to connect with you,
Lantern
where
to
can they go?
counter
By all
any
means, please
electric
plug away.
Pokemon.
So on Facebook, of course, is Unova Region Champion Black, and then everywhere else. So that's Twitch, Kick,
It's
YouTube,
Sharpie Plays.
Twitter is all at Sharpie Plays, And then on Discord, if you want to reach me on Discord, it is Sharpedo Rider 319.
Thank you for listening to As the Pokeball Turns.
Oh
if
my
this
God,
story
I can't
resonated
even
with you,
remember
share the
that.
podcast with a fellow trainer. Don't forget to follow us for more voices, more journeys, and more memories. I'm David Hernandez, and remember, your next Pokemon adventure begins here.
You know what? That podcast wasn't too bad, you know. That podcast was not too bad at all. Although it was 1 hour 7 minutes. You know what? I'm kind of surprised by that. My man didn't waffle that much. And he kept it clean, precise, and straight to the point. That was an alright podcast. I'm not going to lie. This episode was good. I might do this more often with future podcasts. I just thought of this idea. Being like, what if I could just live stream this and react to it? To give my thoughts or views or feelings about X, Y, and Z. As well as to help promote it as well on the side. Along with the live stream. Since it will be stuck on the page for like a month. Then I will just re-upload it at some point. If I can do that. But yeah, that podcast wasn't too bad. With how Brother Unova explained about the Facebook community. How it has changed from the good old olden days compared to now, as well as when it comes to helping smaller pages grow, situations with his mum and his dad who, you know, passed away. My condolences to him for that, as well as that best friends having to stow his DS and then made a run for it, and his favorite being Heart Gold Soul Silver and Pokemon Emerald, as well as him just explaining his journey with the Pokemon franchise, with how many times he let go of it, then came back to it again, like a yo-yo, and he stuck with it ever since. It was an inspiring podcast to listen to. I'm not going to lie. So let's see, Mike, with your comment. The best and more challenging. Okay, I read that before. I prefer solid moves like Flamethrower, Thunderbolt, Ice Beam, and Surf over the most powerful moves against difficult opponents you can't afford to miss. I agree. I do love those moves as well. Way better than Blizzard or Lava Plume, I think. With the hiccups because I'm drinking a lot of water. Lava Plume, which I think is like 90% accuracy or something like that. Or Blast Burn with a stupid accuracy. So yeah, I would always go through those movesets as well. Although they have less power, but its accuracy is the most important thing when it comes to battles in general. In my experience, of course. You could run a Blast Burn set or Eruption set if you want. Since I think Eruption is like 90 or 80 or something like that. I don't think it's 100%. Unless if it has changed over the years. So your favorite is Starmie, Tentacle, Lantern, and Poliwrath. And a good old Crocodile. I mean, that's not a bad team, you know. I haven't used Starmie before in any of my playthroughs. Or Tentacle. Or Lantern. Or Poliwrath. But I did use the Quaco starter before. So yeah, with my future playthroughs, I might use different Pokemon throughout it. Like with my Heart Gold playthrough, which I need to restart again. But I couldn't because of my stream being laggy or something like that. I'm not sure what was happening. I'm using like a different team currently that I don't normally would use for my main playthrough. So that's my goal with my future playthroughs. Try different Pokemon I haven't used before and just keep one or two of my favorites on my team. Thunder is perfect with Kyogre because of Drizzle. Rain Dance gives 100% accuracy to Thunder. Yeah, that's a combo that could work out. Like with Pokemon Colosseum, you have a Plusle. I think it's a Plusle that you have. Is it a Plusle? I think it's a Plusle that joins your team? Or is it Minun? No, I think it's a Plusle that joins your team in Colosseum. And you could just run Rain Dance with it, alongside with your Suicune that knows Surf. Or with Raikou that knows Thunder, and it just hits 100% of the time. Oh no, Helping Hand, that's what I was thinking about. Helping Hand Surf was absolutely broken. Same with Rain Dance, then Helping Hand for Raikou. Tentacle can have a decent moveset. Like you could drain Surf, Ice Beam, Sludge Bomb, and a lot of people say it's useless, which is not true. I mean, with Tentacle, he's not my first option to go for when it comes to like a water type. Or Pokemon could leave on my team, because in my experience I just don't like it to be on my team compared to like any other water type Pokemon like Rowlord or Mudkip or Goldeen possibly, although I haven't used Goldeen at all. Or Lantern I would use instead of Tentacle. Tentacle is like my middle option, middle to bottom option to have on my team. Although he does have a good moveset due to the poison typing alongside with the water typing. But yeah, I wouldn't really choose him compared to other water types out there. Although he is quite a bulky Pokemon if you think about it. But yeah, this was the stream of Unova Region Black, Champion Black. Thank you all for watching. Take care and do enjoy the rest of your day, night or evening. And I catch you guys later. Thank you guys for supporting. And yeah, take care. Bye everyone.